Millions of people are being evacuated in southern Florida as this monstrous Hurricane Matthew is barreling down with winds of over 120 miles an hour. It could become actually stronger than that. They're talking about Category 3, Category 4. It's been Category 4, but it's getting ready to hit the Florida and the East Coast, and then North Carolina and South Carolina. Terry.
Well, officials in those states are making it clear that people in the path of this deadly hurricane need to get out of its way now. Charlene Aaron has the story.
Florida is preparing for what could be the worst storm to hit the Sunshine State in years. Hurricane Matthew had already claimed 25 lives as it slammed into Haiti.
I've lost everything. The water took it.
In Cuba, towns were leveled, and the storm badly battered the Bahamas overnight. Matthew strengthened early today as it crawled towards the U.S., with winds more than 120 miles per hour, and with about 2 million people being encouraged to evacuate before it arrives. Those evacuations are underway in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and residents are being forced to either leave or stock up.
Get out now. It could be the decision between life and death.
South Carolina is expected to evacuate 500,000 people. Traffic there has been bumper to bumper as residents leave.
We want you to evacuate. We do not want you to stay.
Many riding out the storm are scrambling for supplies, food, and bottled water.
I've already been to 3 gas stations that have shut down because they're out of gas.
We've been waiting about 30, 40 minutes, just getting some plywood.
We wanted to get batteries, but they're out of batteries.
Matthew is also making for difficult travel. American Airlines has canceled all flights into Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach. Preparations are being made up the East Coast to North Carolina.
It's a huge waiting game because, as you can tell from the hurricane tracks, they've changed almost every single day this week, and they will continue to change until the storm either makes landfall or goes back out to sea.
CBN's Operation Blessing is already on the ground in Columbia, South Carolina, and Ocala, Florida. Plans are underway to set up a mobile kitchen and help people with cleanup efforts after the storm passes. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
I was down in Florida after Andrew. It was the most awful devastation you could imagine. But in that hurricane were tornadoes. And some had winds in excess of 200 miles an hour. They were just vicious, and they just ripped the roof off of churches, roof off of homes. Devastation in that area. And I don't think they've had anything like that in quite a while. And Florida has been growing, the population has been growing, and suddenly with all these people and all these homes comes this vicious storm. So our prayers are with our friends in Florida, and we just hope that it looks like they've got the preparations underway that'll save lives, and we certainly hope so. Well, by the way, Operation Blessing is already there in Ocala, Florida. They've got a mobile kitchen. They've got a semi-truck full of emergency construction supplies. They've got a construction trailer. They've got skid for removal of a skid steer, they call it. They've got a shower trailer. They've got a food kitchen. They've got all kinds of things that want to help people. We just don't quite know where to position them yet because we're not sure where the worst devastation is going to be. But Operation Blessing will be on the scene. If you want to help, you can get the number. It's CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Well, in other news, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are getting ready for Sunday night's presidential town hall, while the vice presidential candidates are back on the campaign trail. John Jessup has that.
That's right, Pat. Mike Pence and Tim Kaine hit the road again. Both men talking about their debate performances Tuesday night, where Pence was widely seen as the winner.
You know, what I can tell you is from where I sat, Donald Trump won the debate. Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won the debate.
The debate was a little feisty. I mean, I got to admit, I am Irish.
After hitting a fundraiser here in Washington, D.C., Hillary Clinton is focusing on getting ready for Sunday night's town hall debate with Donald Trump. Still on the campaign trail, Trump praised Pence as a good Christian before reading from the Bible. Trump also warned an audience at a Christian school in Las Vegas that Clinton will, quote, endanger religious liberty across America if she wins. Well, North Carolina is a key battleground state in the 2016 presidential election, and it's a hotbed of many of the country's current controversial issues. No one knows this better than the state's Republican governor, Pat McCrory, who's up for re-election. One issue he's standing strong on is the state's bathroom bill, which deals with which bathrooms transgendered people can use. In an exclusive interview with CBN's Jenna Browder, McCrory explains why he says this is a time for Christians and others in the silent majority to speak up.
Tonight, a blockbuster clash is brewing over transgender rights and North Carolina's so-called bathroom law.
Breaking tonight, an explosion of violence on the streets.
Protests that erupted in Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's a state making national news.
The shooting of Keith Lamont Scott has shaken the city of Charlotte.
North Carolina, an epicenter of emotional issues felt across the United States.
What do we do? What do we do?
Normally, you go home to escape it all. But even here at the governor's mansion in North Carolina, Governor Pat McCrory can't escape the headlines.
Everyone comes up to me and go, Governor, you must have incredible thick skin when people say pretty cruel things about you and even make threats. And the fact is, I don't.
One of those issues, the so-called bathroom bill. Earlier this year, House Bill 2 became law, requiring North Carolinians to use the public bathrooms and locker rooms corresponding to the sex on their birth certificate, not their gender identity. McCrory and conservatives say it protects women and girls from sexual predators. Liberals say the law discriminates against transgender people.
There is immense pressure to repeal House Bill 2. Have you ever considered doing this?
No, not based upon the concept of changing the definition of gender. And House Bill 2 is actually irrelevant now because the federal government has stepped in and ordered the definition of gender to be based upon expression and identity. So this whole focus on one bill is really a diversion, and it's probably going to be re-changed after the election. It's now a national issue, and the national media has no idea, the people in the public have no idea that this issue started by the left in the city of Charlotte by a very liberal mayor and by the attorney general that I'm running against.
McCrory is up for re-election, and it's a tight race. His opponent, Roy Cooper, is using House Bill 2 to drum up support.
We've seen no leadership from our governor on this issue. He has doubled down on this bad law as our state has taken hit after hit.
It's a major change in our moral fabric, and it deserves debate and deserves discussion, but there's even a lot of pressure on corporations.
Apple and PayPal are among the corporate giants backing out of the state, though not entirely. McCrory says a number are still quietly pursuing opportunities in North Carolina. Groups like the NBA and NCAA have also packed up some of their operations.
Well, you've got to draw the line somewhere, and the entertainment world is very hypocritical on this also. George Clooney, who I love as an actor, after he criticized North Carolina's bill, he went to China to promote his movie. China, whose human rights records are horrible.
How much influence do evangelicals have in North Carolina, and how important are they to your battle you face here?
One thing I've told a lot of people is we've got to have the silent majority to quit whispering. They talk too softly about their support, and they need to speak out now, because what's happening in America and what's happening in North Carolina, the only people you hear from in the media and the only people you hear from protesting in the street or on our universities are people of the very far left who disagree with people of faith in many, many issues. But we are not hearing from the silent majority. They're too quiet right now. And therefore, the impression of the independent voter is, well, the loud people must represent the majority. And we're going to find out this election. It's going to be very, very interesting.
There's no doubt the eyes of the nation will be watching North Carolina to see if evangelicals have enough punch to make a difference. Right now, the jury's still out. In Raleigh, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thanks, Jenna. Pat, back to you.
That governor is a courageous man. He's a wonderful human being, and he's been a very superb public servant. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't it, how does this suddenly become a national civil rights issue when a government says, look, what's on your birth certificate that says who you were. You were a boy when you were born. You were a girl when you were born. Now, if you use a restroom, you go to the boys' restroom, and if you're a girl, you go to the girls' restroom. So, big deal. Why is that suddenly an anti-discriminatory type of policy? Why does that discriminate against anybody? It doesn't discriminate against anybody. But this whole idea of sexual identity, when I'm 9 years old or I'm 10 years old, I'm going to declare that I'm no longer a boy, I'm going to be a girl. I mean, these kids don't know what they're doing. And the idea that they're being forced into something because they like to wear dresses every so often or something, I mean, you know, they're in a process and they will grow into it. And North Carolina is very wise. We don't want sexual predators coming into the girls' bathrooms to take advantage of them. They say, well, I'm really a girl, so I want to go in there. And there's a big old hairy-chested man. He comes in to have sex with these girls. You don't want that. And North Carolina said, we want to protect them. It's crazy. The whole thing is nuts. And the trouble is, it's been, inflamed by radical groups. The people in Charlotte, as I understand, 70% of those who were arrested were from out of state. They weren't from North Carolina. They were from out of state. They were radical groups bust in to demonstrate and make a big fuss. And what happened in Charlotte? Black police chief, black cop shoots a black man who apparently had a pistol in a holster down on his ankle. And that was the big thing. And they started talking about, let's kill white people. White people had nothing to do with it. Black police chief, black policeman, black victim who apparently had a gun. I mean, that was, and for that, we're going to burn the city, we're going to tear things up. Why? Because it's a big state in a national election, and the left doesn't want it to go Republican. They don't want it to be conservative. They don't want McCrory to be reelected. It's all a put-up job. We've got to recognize what we're dealing with. John, what's next?
Pat, not only has the national debt been growing here in the United States, debt is on the rise around the world. Total global debt has now hit $152 trillion, according to the International Monetary Fund. The world's debt has more than doubled since the beginning of the century, and the IMF warns that the amount of debt could rise even higher in the years ahead, pointing out debt is high not only in major developed countries, but also in important emerging economies like China and Brazil. Pat, those figures are just staggering.
It is staggering, and the thing is, there's no engine to pull it out anymore. There's no government, no country big enough to handle all this. Used to be the U.S. could do it, maybe the U.S. and Britain could do it, no longer. There's no unit of government can do that. So we're looking down the road, if there's going to be something bad happening, it's not going to be global warming, it's going to be a financial collapse. $152 trillion, and we're adding debt as fast as we can add it. And all these countries are in debt. The United States is in debt up to its ears. So is Europe. You know, look at countries like Greece and Portugal and Spain and Italy and on down the line, desperate. They're drowning in debt. And so it's going to be. What's going to happen? Well, one of these days, but it's going to be terribly painful for a period of time. So you need to get used to it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have said a long time ago that God wants us to live and prosper and be in health and grow into old age. That's what he says in the Bible. Well, John has some health news for us.
That's right, Pat. The question is, just how long can people live? A new study published in the journal Nature suggests there may be a limit to our lifespan, around 115 years. The oldest documented person in modern times lived to be 122, and researchers say that lifespan can't be extended too much because of the complexity of the aging process. But some specialists say the new study doesn't take into account other research, and they think the human age limit can eventually be increased so that people can live even longer. Still, others question that, and some experts say that at least for now, people should focus on eating better and exercising so they can stay healthy in their twilight years. Pat, if I remember correctly, didn't you say something about living to be 120-something years old?
That's what God told Noah after the flood. He said the lifespan of man is 120 years. Up to that time, they were living 700 to 800 years. Then after the flood, I don't know whether it was a whole bunch of bacteria that began to grow because of all that moisture or what it was, but nevertheless, he said, okay, your lifetime's 120. And you've got guys like Moses, lived about 120 or so. I think Joshua lived 110. And so that's okay. You know,
well, you know, I think the key to that is if you're going to have longevity, you'd like it to be with good health.
Absolutely.
You know?
You have a goal. Where are you going?
I'm going. You know, for everyone there is appointed time. I'm going till my appointed time, and then
well, you can change your appointed time if you change what you're doing. But I'm figuring, hey. My wife says, honey, I don't want to live that long because all my friends will be dead. Well, I said, well, get younger friends. That's what you got to do. All right.